Alright, everybody, so it's time for another episode of On My Radar where I talk to you about books that I have seen that look interesting, either based off of the cover, the author name, just anything really that catches my eye. If you would like for your book to be featured on this list, you can fill out the form down below. Doesn't mean that you will be selected because I try to keep the features down to just a couple each week, and they are genuinely whatever catches my eye. But I know that in the case of like indie authors, the books aren't going to be necessarily on Edelweiss, which is what I use to comb all of the publishing catalogs. So utilizing the link down below, you can fill out the form. That will put it in front of me, just like all the books that are on Edelweiss, for me to decide what I want to feature. And that's really all that this is. Now, this week is going to be a little bit special because my computer had broke. So I have several weeks of On My Radar, so you're getting 3 episodes of On My Radar in one. So this is going to be all of the books that are on my radar that published between January 22nd and February February 11th, I believe. Let me check that out. Yes, February 11th. So you're going to get a lot of books for this one because there are so many books and because so many of them also are parts of series. I will do timestamps for y'all. So you can check out down below. There will be timestamps to go to the next book, and also there will be links for the books if you would like to purchase. These are affiliate links, which just means that if you purchase one, I might get a small commission off of that. But all of my features are legitimately just what I wanted to feature. I'm not getting paid to feature any particular books. But without further ado, let's get into this sucker. 6 times we almost kissed, and one time we did, by Tess Sharp. This one is 384 pages and is marketed as young adult fiction, romance, LGBTQ+, for ages 14 and up or grades 9 to 17. 6 moments lead to 2 girls, 1 kiss, and 3 little words that were maybe always true in this gorgeous novel, perfect for fans of Nina LaCour and Jenny Han. After years of bickering, Penny and Tate have called a truce. They'll play nice. They have to. Their mothers, lifelong best friends, need them to be perfect, drama-free daughters when Penny's mother becomes a living liver donor to Tate's mom. Forced to live together as the moms recover, the girls' truce is essential in keeping everything, their jobs, the house, the finances, the mom's healing, running smoothly. They've got to let this thing between them go. There's one little hitch. Penny and Tate keep almost kissing. It's just this confusing thing that keeps happening, from time to time. For basically their entire teenage existence. They've never talked about it. They've always ignored it in the aftermath. But now that they're living across the hall from each other, and some things, like their kisses, can't be almost forever. Told through 2 girls present and 6 moments from their past, this dynamic love story shows that sometimes the person you need the most has been there for you all along. Born in a mountain cabin to a punk rock mother, Tess Sharp grew up in rural California. She lives deep in the backwoods with a pack of dogs and a growing colony of feral cats. You can find her on Twitter at Sharp Girl. Begin Again by Emma Lord comes in at 352 pages and is marketed as young adult fiction coming of age for ages 12 to 18. A laugh out loud, funny, and emotionally resonant send-up to Legally Blonde and The X-Talk. Begin Again is a vibrant, romantic novel about the journey we take to find our people and ourselves. As usual, Andy Rose has a plan. Transfer from community college to the hyper-competitive Blue Ridge State, major in psychology, and maintain her lifelong goal of becoming an iconic self-help figure, despite the nerves that have recently thrown her for a loop. All it will take is ruthless organization, hard work, and her trademark unrelenting enthusiasm to pull it all together. But the moment Andy arrives, the rest of her plans go off the rails. Her rocky relationship with her boyfriend Connor only gets more complicated when she discovers he transferred out of Blue Ridge to her community college. Her roommate, Shay, needs a major, and despite Andy's impressive track record of being the fixer, she's stumped on how to help. And Milo, her coffee guzzling grump of an RA with seafoam green eyes, is somehow disrupting all her ideas about love and relationships, one sleep deprived wisecrack at a time. But sometimes when all your plans are in the rubble at your feet, you find what you're made of. And when Andy starts to find the power of her voice as the anonymous squire on the school's legendary pirate radio station, the same one her mom founded years before she passed away, Andy learns that not all the best laid plans are necessarily the right ones. Filled with a friend group that feels like family, an empowering journey of finding your own way, and a just kiss already romance, Begin Again is an unforgettable novel of love and starting again. Emma Lord is a digital media editor and writer living in NYC, where she spends whatever time she isn't writing, either running or belting show tunes in community theater. She graduated from the University of Virginia with a major in psychology and a minor in how to tilt your computer screen so nobody notices you're updating your fan fiction from the back row. She was raised on a glitter and copious amounts of grilled cheese. She is the author of Tweet Cute, You Have a Match, and When You Get the Chance. Fae's Enemy, Queen of the Fae, Book 11 by M. Lynn and Melissa A. Craven, comes in at 211 pages. A dark fae trying to make things right. A human girl wondering how it all went so wrong. Don't trust the humans. It's a new sentiment among the fae. For most of his life, the few humans he's known have been like family, so how does their entire world want those like Gilly destroyed? The secret is out. Fae exist, and the humans believe magic threatens their way of life. The once fringe cult that has spent years terrorizing the Fae and killing any humans that got in the way now has the backing of governments and the media. Their goal? Keep the Fae out of our world. What they really mean? Destroy them all. Gulliver refuses to give up on the communities of Fae scattered across human cities. And he'll never give up on Sophie, whether she's taking up residence in the Queen's lavish Iskaltian rooms or sitting by her father's side as he plans to annihilate the Fae. Gulliver has to reach her. He has to make her see there's another way. There might be a tale coming from his behind. His eyes might be more familiar to a cat, and he might live in a world of vanishing villages and healing waters. But all Gulliver wants is for his home to remain safe, and those Fae who choose to make the human world their home to have that same safety, even if he has to lose her to hate. Even if he has to face a war zone of bombs and guns and the destruction of every taco he holds dear, the fate of the world is now up to him. Magicless Gulliver O'Shea. Book 11 in the Queens of the Fae series brings us closer to a conclusion of this twisty, exciting, swoony Fae love story. Navy Families, a novel by Debbie Macomber, comes in at a whopping 496 pages and is marketed as fiction, romance, contemporary. Navy heroes become family men in these two classic stories from #1 best-selling author Debbie Macomber. Macomber delivers her usual high-quality read, placing interesting characters in an emotionally volatile situation that has particular resonance in these times. RT Book Reviews on Navy Husband. Navy heroes become family men. Navy baby. It was a night she'd never forget, two strangers coming together in a moment of intense desire. But now sheltered Hannah Raymond is expecting the child of a rugged naval seaman she thought she'd never see again. Riley Murdoch has been searching for Hannah for months, ever since that soul-shaking night of passion. Now fate has reunited them. Determined to give his child the chance he never had, Riley marries Hannah. They've created the miracle of life together, but is that enough to spark love? Navy husband. Shannon Barry is her sister's official Navy parenting plan, so despite being unprepared, she is in charge of adorable 9-year-old Jasmine for the next 6 months. Shauna isn't all that close to her niece, but she's trying her best. The little girl has lots of opinions, including ones on Shanna's love life, or lack thereof. Shanna also doesn't appreciate Jasmine's godfather, Lieutenant Commander Adam Kennedy, constantly checking up on her. She is definitely not looking for a Navy husband, no matter what her meddling niece thinks. So why does infuriating Adam seem so appealing? Debbie Macomber, Debbie, Debbie Macomber is a #1 New York Times and USA Today bestselling author and the lead voice in women's fiction today. She is a multiple award winner with more than 200 million copies of her books in print. 5 of her Christmas titles have been made into Hallmark Channel original movies, as well as a series based on her best-selling Cedar Cove stories. For more information, visit her website, debbiemacomber.com. I will say that I've read some of her Christmas romances. They tend to have enemies to lovers, and they are very good. And also, if you like Debbie Macomber's writing style, it is kind of like what I always say are like my favorite things about writing styles. So I actually have a very similar writing style to her, and that's why I like her so much. Because she does things the way that I do things. And I'm like, okay, girl, we on the same wavelength here. She's very concise, to the point. She's not overly descriptive. And it's just really, really good. I like her writing. Spice Road by Maiya Ibrahim comes in at 464 pages and is marketed as young adult fiction fantasy epic for ages 14 and up or grades 9 and up. The first book in an epic fantasy series set in an Arabian-inspired land with secret spice magic. Raised to protect her nation from the monsters lurking in the sands, 16-year-old Amani must fight to find her brother, whose betrayal is now the country's greatest threat. In the hidden desert city of Kalia, there is a secret spice magic that awakens the affinities of those who drank the Misra tea. 16-year-old Amani has the affinity for iron and is able to wield a dagger like no other warrior. She has garnered the reputation as being the next great shield for battling Dinjan, ghouls, and other monsters spreading across the sands. Her reputation has been overshadowed, however, by her brother, who tarnished the family name after it was revealed that he was stealing the nation's coveted spice, a telltale sign of magical obsession. Soon after that, he disappeared, believed to have died beyond the forbidden waste. Despite her brother's betrayal, there isn't a day that goes by when Amani doesn't grieve him. But when Amani discovers signs that her brother may be alive and spreading the nation's magic to outsiders, she makes a deal with the council that she will find him and bring him back to Kalia, where he will face punishment, accompanied by other shields, including Taha, a powerful beast seer who can control the minds of falcons. She sets out on her mission. Amani will soon find that many secrets lie beyond the forbidden waste and in her own heart, but will she find her brother? Maiya Ibrahim is the debut author of the Spice Road trilogy. Born and raised in Sydney, she has been writing stories since she learned how to boot up a PC and open her notepad. When not writing, Maiya can be found indulging in Lebanese food with her family, playing Skyrim, watching Game of Thrones, or swimming with friends at one of Australia's many spectacular beaches. Visit her on Twitter at Maiya_Ibrahim and on Instagram at Maiya.Ibrahim. The Keeper of Stories by Sally Page. It does not have a page count, but it is marketed as women's fiction. A charming uplifting debut novel full of humor and depth that has taken readers around the world by surprise. Everyone has a story to tell, but does Janice have the power to unlock her own? She can't recall what started her collection. Maybe it was in a fragment of conversation overheard as she cleaned a sink. Before long, as she dusted a sitting room or defrosted a fridge, she noticed people were telling her their stories. Perhaps they had always done so, but now it is different. Now the stories are reaching out to her, and she gathers them to her. Cleaner Janice knows that it is in people's stories that you really get to know them. From recently widowed Fiona to her son Adam to opera singing Gordy, the quiet bus driver Eon, and the pretentious Miss Yeah, and her fox terrier Decus. Janice has a unique insight into the community around her. When Janice starts cleaning for Mrs. B, a shrewd and prickly woman in her 90s, she finally meets someone who wants to hear her story. But Janice is clear. She is the keeper of stories. She doesn't have a story to tell. At least, not one she can share. Mrs. B is no fool and knows there is more to Janice than meets the eye. What is she hiding? After all, doesn't everyone have a story to tell? Sally Page's debut novel, The Keeper of Stories, combines her love of history and writing with her abiding interest in the stories people have to tell. Her eldest daughter, Alex, is studying to be a doctor, and her youngest daughter is the author, Libby Page. Sally lives in Dorset. The Skeleton Key, the brand new, unpredictable, tense, and utterly gripping suspense from the million-copy bestseller by Erin Kelly. This one comes in at a whopping 512 pages and is marketed as fiction, thrillers, and psychological. This reunion will tear a family apart. Summer 2021, Nell has come home at her family's insistence to celebrate an anniversary. 50 years ago, her father wrote The Golden Bones. Part picture book, part treasure hunt, Sir Frank Churcher created a fairy story about Eleanor, a murdered woman whose skeleton was scattered all over England. Clues and puzzles in the pages of The Golden Bones led readers to 7 sites where jewels were buried, gold and precious stones, each a different part of a skeleton. One by one, the tiny golden bones were dug up until only Eleanor's pelvis remained hidden. The book was a sensation. A community of treasure hunters called the Bone Hunters formed. In frenzied competition, obsessed to a dangerous degree, people sold their homes to travel to England and search for Eleanor. Marriages broke down as the quest consumed people. A man died. The book made Frank a rich man. Stalked by fans who could not tell fantasy from reality, his daughter, Nell, became a recluse. But now the Churchers must be reunited. The book is being reissued along with a new treasure hunt and a documentary crew are charting everything that follows. Nell is appalled and terrified. During the filming, Frank finally reveals the whereabouts of the missing golden bone. And then all hell breaks loose. From the best-selling author of He Said, She Said, and Watch Her Fall, this is a taut, mesmerizing novel about a daughter haunted by her father's legacy. Erin Kelly is the Sunday Times bestselling author of The Poison Tree, The Sick Rose, The Burning Air, The Ties That Bind, He Said, She Said, Stone Mothers, and Broadchurch, the novel, inspired by the mega-hit TV series. In 2013, The Poison Tree became a major ITV drama and was a Richard and Judy summer read in 2011. He Said, She Said spent 6 weeks in the top 10 in both hardback and paperback, was longlisted for the Theakston's Old Peculiar Crime Novel of the Year award, and selected for both the Simon Mayo Radio 2 and Richard and Judy book clubs. She has worked as a freelance journalist since 1998. and written for The Guardian, The Sunday Times, Daily Mail, New Statesman, Red, Elle, Cosmopolitan, and The Pool. Born in London in 1973, she lives in North London with her husband and daughters. erinkelly.co.uk or twitter.com/MSERIN Kelly. When I First Held You, the unabridged version by Anstey Harris. This one does not have a page count for me on here. It is women's fiction. Silence tore them apart. Can the truth bring them back together? In 1960s Glasgow, anti-nuclear activist Judith and Jimmy fall in love, but their future hopes are dashed when their protesters' squat is raided, and many, including Jimmy, are sent to prison. Pregnant and with no word from Jimmy, Judith is forced to enter an unmarried mother's home, give up their baby, and learn to live with her grief. More than half a century later, Judith's mending shop restores broken treasures, just as Judith herself has been bound back together by her late, much-missed partner, Catherine. But her tranquility is shattered when Jimmy, so different and yet somehow the same, reappears, yearning to unpick the painful past. Realizing they each know only half of the other's story, Jimmy and Judith finally break the silence that tore apart what might have been their family. Amid heartbreak and hope, how much can now be mended? And it does not have any author information for me to give you. Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare comes in at a gargantuan 800 pages. Woo! This one is classified as a young adult fantasy, dark fantasy for ages 14 and up, or grades 9 and up. And yes, I will be reading it, but I will definitely be using the audiobook because I ain't got time to read no 800-page book. But I actually really like this series, and I'm not the biggest Cassandra Clare fan, even though I've read all of her books that are part of this whole, like, world. But I am looking forward to this one. This is my favorite series of hers that she's written, other than, like, the core, I would say, first 4 books in The Mortal Instrument were maybe my favorite, but this one is definitely the close second. James and Cordelia must save London and their marriage in this thrilling and highly anticipated conclusion to the Last Hours series from the #1 New York Times and USA Today bestselling author Cassandra Clare. Chain of Thorns is a Shadowhunters novel. Cordelia Carstairs has lost everything that matters to her. In only a few short weeks, she has seen her father murdered, her plans to become Parabatai with her best friend Lucy destroyed, and her marriage to James Herondale crumbled before her eyes. Even worse, she is now bound to an ancient demon, Lilith, stripping her of her power as a shadow hunter. After fleeing to Paris with Matthew Fairchild, Cordelia hopes to forget her sorrows in the city's glittering nightlife. But reality intrudes when shocking news comes from home. Tatiana Blackthorne has escaped the adamant citadel, and London is under new threat by the Prince of Hell, Belial. Cordelia returns to a London riven by chaos and dissent. The long-kept secret that Belial is James and Lucy's grandfather has been revealed by an unexpected enemy, and the Herondales find themselves under suspicion of dealings with demons. Cordelia longs to protect James, but is torn between a love for James she has long believed hopeless and the possibility of a new life with Matthew. Nor can her friends help. Ripped apart by their own secrets, they seem destined to face what is coming alone. For time is short, and Belial's plan is about to crash into the Shadowhunters of London like a deadly wave, one that will separate Cordelia, Lucy, and the Merry Thieves from help of any kind. Left alone in a shadowy London, they must face Belial's deadly army. If Cordelia and her friends are going to save their city and their families, they will have to muster their courage, swallow their pride, and trust one another again. For if they fail, they may lose everything, even their souls. Cassandra Clare is the author of the #1 New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and Publishers Weekly best-selling Shadowhunter Chronicles. She is also the co-author of the best-selling fantasy series Magisterium with Holly Black. I've not read any of her middle grades. I've only read the stuff that takes place in this world, by the way. The Shadowhunters Chronicles have been adapted as both a major motion picture and a television series. Her books have more than 50 million copies in print worldwide and have been translated into more than 35 languages. Cassandra lives in western Massachusetts with her husband and 3 fearsome cats. Visit her at CassandraClare.com. Learn more about the world of the Shadowhunters at shadowhunters.com. Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun by Elle Cosimano comes in at 304 pages and is marketed as fiction, mystery, and detective women sleuths. This is the 3rd book in the Finlay Donovan series, and I am up to date, so I will definitely be reading this one as soon as I can get a hold of it, and I do highly recommend the audiobook versions. They're just really, really funny. From USA Today bestseller and Edgar Award nominee Elle Cosimano comes Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, the hilarious and heart-pounding next installment in the beloved Finlay Donovan series. Finlay Donovan has been in messes before. After all, she's an author and single mom who's a pro at getting out bloodstains for rather unexpected reasons, but none quite like this. After she and her nanny/partner in crime, Vero, accidentally destroy a luxury car that they may have borrowed in the process of saving the life of Finlay's ex-husband, the Russian mob did her a favor and bought the car for her. But now Finlay owes them. Though now behind bars and awaiting trial, mob boss Felix is still running the show, and he has a task for Finlay. Find and identify a contract killer before the cops do. Problem is, the killer might be an officer themselves. Luckily, hot cop Nick has just been tasked with starting up a citizens police academy, and combined pressure from him and Finlay's agent, the next book is always right around the corner, is enough to convince her and Vero to get involved. Through ride-alongs, firearm trading courses, and forensics classes, Finlay and Vero use their time in police academy to sleuth out the real contract killer to free themselves from the mob's clutches, all the while dodging spies, confronting Vero's past, and juggling the daily trials of parenting. So yeah, it didn't say that this was the final book. So does that mean we're going to get a Finlay Donovan 4? Because I want that. Oh. Reggie and Delilah's Year of Falling by Elise Bryant comes in at 400 pages and is marketed as a young adult romantic comedy. From the NAACP Image Award nominated author of Happily Ever Afters comes a dual POV rom-com about Reggie and Delilah who fall in love through missed connections and chance meetings on holidays over the course of a year. Delilah always keeps her messy, gooey insides hidden behind a wall of shrugs and yeah-whatevers. She goes with the flow, which is how she ends up singing in her friend's punk band as a favor, even though she'd prefer to hide at the merch table. Reggie is a D&D dungeon master and self-declared Blaird. He spends his free time leading quests and writing essays critiquing the game under a pseudonym, keeping it all under wraps from his disapproving family. These two, who have practically nothing in common, meet for the first time on New Year's Eve, and then again on Valentine's Day, and then again on St. Patrick's Day. It's almost like the universe is pushing them together for a reason. Delilah wishes she were more like Reggie, open about what she likes and who she is, even if it's not cool. Except it's all a front. Reggie is just role-playing someone confident, the kind of guy who could be with a girl like Delilah. As their holiday meetings continue, the two begin to fall for each other. But what happens once they realize they've each fallen for a version of the other that doesn't really exist? Elise Bryant is the NAACP Image Award nominated author of Happily Ever Afters and One True Loves. She was born and raised in Southern California. For many years, Elise had the joy of working as a teacher, and now she spends her days writing swoony love stories and eating dessert. She lives with her husband and two daughters in Long Beach. You can visit her online at elisebryant.com. Key selling points. Buzzy Rising Star author Elise's first book, Happily Ever Afters, was a NAACP Image Award nominee, a Kids Indie Next List selection, and continues to sell strongly. It earned 3-starred reviews, and Today with Huda and Jenna recommended it as a perfect Valentine's Day read. Her sophomore novel, One True Loves, has also received a lot of buzz from readers and reviewers alike. Black romantic comedy. This story is an irresistible rom-com about Reggie and Delilah who fall in love through misconnections and chance meetings on holidays over the course of a year. Like Elise's other books, this layered romance is funny, endlessly charming, and fits in alongside Jenny Han, Lee Johnson, and Nicola Yoon, with crossover appeal for fans of Jasmine Guillory and Talia Hibbert. Lots of commercial appeal. Centered around a hooky romance and layered with important themes and honest insights, the story grabs the readers from the start. And as always, Elise's stories are a love letter to the romance genre, incorporating fun and beloved romance tropes. Witty, accessible voice. Told in dual POV with two spot-on teen voices full of heart, humor, and plenty of snark, Elise tackles complex issues in a thoughtful and accessible way. Explores universal and layered themes. The story does a great job of universalizing music and Black nerd culture while tackling themes of identity and finding the courage to be yourself. Elise's exploration of perennial YA themes and substantive issues, including living with a disability or invisible illness, and grappling with others' perceptions or labels that make us feel like we're not enough, is nuanced, fresh, and drawn from her own experiences. These rich and often complex topics make this an ideal book club pick. Standalone with a fun connection. Reggie, who we meet briefly in One True Loves, is Leonore's crush. Fans of Leonore and Alex can look forward to a cameo appearance by the couple in this book. All right. So there you go. Then Everything Happens at Once by Emmy Girard. This one comes in at 432 pages and is marketed as young adult LGBTQ+. From Lambda award-winning and acclaimed author of Girl Man's Up, Emmy Girard, comes a standalone sex-positive coming-of-age story about a teen exploring feelings for her best friend and a new crush as her rocky relationship with her own body and a pandemic threatens to sabotage everything. Perfect for fans of Fat Chance Charlie Vega. 16-year-old Bailey has never been kissed, but she wants to do way more than that. She's had a huge crush on her gorgeous best friend and neighbor Freddie for years. But since she doesn't look like the type of girl he normally dates, the judgmental voice in her head tells her he'll never see her as more than a friend. Then Bailey meets Alex online and she starts to fall for this sweet, funny barista who likes her just as she is. But when Freddie makes a move on Bailey and a virus shuts the world down, Bailey will find herself torn. Everything is happening at once, and she is left navigating the messy waters of love and desire. It helps that she's observed her friend's relationship drama, so she knows exactly what mistakes not to make. Right? Emmy Girard's debut, Girl Man's Up, won the Lambda Literary Award and was a finalist for the William C. Morris Award. She lives just outside of Toronto, Canada, where she splits her time between writing YA fiction, being a mom to a toddler, and working as a registered nurse. Emmy dedicated the bulk of her nursing career to working with kids, and more recently, she was an ER and ICU nurse during the first waves of the pandemic. A 2013 and 2015 Lambda Literary Fellow, Emmy is a proud feminist who is endlessly fascinated with what it means to be a girl, especially a queer fat girl. You can find her online at emmygirard.com. Key selling points for this one is realistic love versus lust triangle. Bailey has feelings for both new acquaintance Alex and longtime crush Freddie, two people who fulfilled their very different needs. For her, though Alex and Freddie are both swoon-worthy suitors, can she decide between her feelings for both of them, or will it all blow up in her face? Sex-positive themes, Then Everything Happens at Once, showcases Bailey's desire to take control of her sex life in a relatable and honest way, spotlighting sex positivity. Examines pandemic impact on teens. This book delves into how deeply isolating and depressing the sudden lockdown was for teens, who had no idea when or if things would get better. Bailey is expected to quarantine, attend school virtually, and give up her social life and sex life just when things were starting to heat up. Reality of internalized body shaming. Although the body positivity movement has gained traction on social media, Bailey's lived reality is that she struggles with her body image and doesn't think others could be attracted to her. Bailey shows that the journey towards self-love is not always a straight or easy path. Relatably flawed protagonist. Bailey is inexperienced when it comes to hooking up or relationships, but it's something she wants to pursue. So when the chances arise, she gets caught up in the excitement and makes impulsive decisions without thinking of the consequences, making her a messy and relatable teen protagonist. Lambda Award-winning author Emmy Girard made a splash with her debut novel, Girl Man's Up, which won Lambda Literary Award, was a William C. Morris debut finalist and a Kobo Emerging Writer Award finalist, and received multiple starred reviews and landed on Best of Year list. She brings her strong literary voice to her sophomore novel and tackles complex issues in a thoughtful and accessible way. Girl Man's Up Easter eggs. This is a standalone story, but fans will be happy to see that Penn, the kick-butt, straight-shooting main character from Girl Man's Up, has a minor role, along with several others, in this companion novel that is also set in the fictional Canadian town of Castle Hill. Call and Response Stories by Gothataone Moeng. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad, is fiction family life, and it's the 304 pages. Richly drawn stories about the lives of ordinary families in contemporary Botswana as they navigate relationships, tradition, and caretaking in a rapidly changing world. A young widow adheres to the expectations of wearing mourning clothes for nearly a year, though she's unsure what the traditions mean or whether she is ready to meet the world without their protection. An older sister returns home from a confusing time in America, only to explain at every turn why she's left the land of opportunity. A younger sister hides her sexual exploits from her family, while her older brother openly flaunts his infidelity. The stories collected in Call and Response are strongly anchored in place in the village of Soro, where the author is from, and in Gaborone, the capital of Botswana, charting the emotional journeys of women seeking love and opportunity beyond the barriers of custom and circumstance. The author is part of a new generation of writers coming out of Africa whose voices are ready to explode onto the literary scene. The tradition of writers like Chimamanda Adichie and Jahampa Lahiri. She offers us insights into communities, experiences, and landscapes through stories that are cinematic in their sweep with unforgettable female protagonists. The author was born in Soro, Botswana. She was a Wallace Stegner Fellow in Fiction, a summer workshop scholar at Tin House, and an emerging writer fellow at A Public Space. Her writing has appeared on its forthcoming Her writing has appeared or is forthcoming in American Short Fiction, One Story, Virginia Quarterly Review, A Public Space, Plowshares, and Oxford America. She holds an MFA in creative writing from the University of Mississippi. She is currently at work on a novel. A Good Day to Pie by Misha Pop is pitched as mystery and detective cozy culinary, and it is 320 pages. Competitive baking takes a murderous turn, and Misha Pop's decadent and addicting second pies before guys cozy mystery, oven ready for fans of Ellery Adams and Mary Maxwell. Everyone loves a good pie, but how about a pie that's as deadly as it is delectable? Daisy bakes a little murder into every pie she creates, and she and her dog Zoe deliver them to the town's worst cats. Now Daisy's entered a television elimination-style competition and has a shot at $100,000 in prize money, but she still has a murder pie to deliver between filming. In a completely unexpected turn of events, she discovers that her intended victim is one of the competition judges, and he turns up dead before the pie even arrives. Now Daisy has to solve the murder, even if it means working a bit of magic, before someone calls foul play and exposes her murderous secret. For anyone who's ever fantasized about the world of competitive baking a la the Great British Bake Off, or has ever dreamed of getting back at that guy who wronged them years ago, Pop's culinary cozy series is as alluring as a perfectly baked pie. This edgy yet utterly charming novel takes the idea of a dessert to die for to a whole new level. Misha Pop enjoys writing about murdery women and over-the-top baked goods, but not so much about herself. She lives in rural Massachusetts, where she bakes entirely too many pies and sculpts things out of chocolate. An unrepentant school nerd. She has a collection of degrees that have nothing to do with the jobs that pay her. For Twice in My Life by Annette Christie is pitched as a rom-com and comes in at 320 pages. A second try at love becomes more than one woman bargained for in this timeless, enchanting rom-com from the author of The Rehearsal. Can one little lie lead to a big second chance? Lila's chaotic life transformed when she met Ian Barnett, ambitious, committed, and thoughtful. Ian has been everything she dreamed of, and she knows he'd say the same to her. So when he breaks up with her out of the blue, Lila is stunned. What went wrong? But then Lila gets a call from the local hospital. Ian's had a biking accident. He's okay, but he needs someone, his someone, to get him home safely. As it becomes clear Ian doesn't remember he ended things, it also becomes clear that the accident has given him a new outlook on life and Lila a second chance to get things right. That is, until Ian's younger brother comes to town. Matt is restless, unpredictable, and threatens to upset the careful balance Lila and Ian have rebuilt. As things get more complicated both at home and at work, Lila realizes she might lose her chance at real love and real happiness if she doesn't come clean about the story she's been telling to Ian, to Matt, to her family, and most importantly, to herself. Annette Christie is the author of The Rehearsals. She has a BFA in theater and a history of very odd jobs. The back of her head is featured prominently in the film Mean Girls. She currently resides in Phoenix, Arizona, with her husband and 2 children. Mindwalker by Kate Dillon is pitched as science fiction cyberpunk for ages 14 and up, and it is 320 pages. Do not surrender control. Mindwalker is a cinematic gut punch of action and espionage, sharp-edged, tense, and thrilling. You'll be holding your breath until the last page, says Tasha Suri, author of The Jasmine Throne. 18-year-old Sil Sara is determined to die a legend, but with only 12 months left before the supercomputer grafted to her brain kills her, Sile's time is quickly running out. In the 10 years she's been rescuing field agents for the Syntex Corporation by commandeering their minds from afar and leading them to safety, Sil hasn't lost a single life, and she is not about to start now. But when a critical mission goes south, Sil is forced to flee the very company she once called home. Desperate to prove she's no traitor, Sil infiltrates the Analog Army, an activist faction working to bring Syntex down. Her plan: to win back her employer's trust by destroying the group from within. Instead, she and the Army's reckless leader, Ryder, uncover a horrifying truth that threatens to undo all the good she's ever done. With her tech rapidly degrading and her new ally keeping dangerous secrets of his own, Sil must find a way to stop Syntex in order to save her friends, her reputation, and maybe even herself. The thrill ride of a lifetime, says Kate Dunn. Jesse Q. Satano says pure adrenaline shot straight into your veins. Sarah L. Arifi says utterly enthralling. Vaishnavi Patel says this book will leave you breathless. Clare Wynn says ridiculously thrilling. And Meg Long says a vibrant thrill ride from start to finish. Kate is a video editor by day, science fiction and fantasy author by night. Her passion for writing YA novels is fueled by a love of banter, snark, and all things Marvel, and is supported by her long-suffering boyfriend and their thoroughly indifferent cat. Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey is pitched as a romance rom-com. It is 384 pages. From #1 New York Times bestselling author and TikTok sensation Tessa Bailey comes a steamy new rom-com about a starchy professor and the bubbly neighbor he clashes with at every turn. Hallie Welsh fell hard for Julian Voss at 14 after they almost kissed in the dark vineyards of his family's winery. Now the prodigal hottie has returned. When Hallie is hired to revamp the gardens on the Voss estate, she wonders if she'll finally get that smooch. But the grumpy professor isn't the teenager she remembers, and their polar opposite personalities clash spectacularly. One wine-fueled girls' night later, Hallie can't shake the sense that she did something reckless, and then she remembers the drunken secret admirer letter she left for Julian. Oh, crap. On sabbatical from his Ivy League job, Julian plans to write a novel, but having Hallie gardening right outside his window is the ultimate distraction. She's eccentric, chronically late, often literally covered in dirt, and so unbelievably beautiful he can't focus on anything else until he finds an anonymous letter sent by a woman from his past. Even as Julian wonders about this admirer, he's sucked further into Hallie's orbit. Like the flowers she plants all over town, Hallie is a burst of color in Julian's grayscale life. For a man who irons his socks and runs on tight schedules, her sunny, chaotic energy makes zero sense, but there's something so familiar about her, and her very presence is turning his world upside down. #1 New York Times bestselling author Tessa Bailey can solve all problems except for her own, so she focuses those efforts on stubborn, fictional, blue-collared men and loyal, lovable heroines. She lives in Long Island, avoiding the sun and social interactions, then wonders why no one has called. Dubbed the Michelangelo of dirty talk by Entertainment Weekly, Tessa writes with spice, spirit, swoon, and a guaranteed happily ever after. Catch her on TikTok at author Tessa Bailey, or check out TessaBailey.com for a complete list of her books. The Long Run by James Acker is pitched as young adult fiction, LGBTQ plus romance at 400 pages. Two track and field athletes find an unexpected but powerful love in this unapologetically blunt and unforgettably real YA debut. Sebastian Valletta is over it, over his rep, over his bros, over being Bash the Flash, fastest sprinter in South Jersey. His dad is gone, his mom is dead, and his stepfather is clueless. Bash has no idea what he wants out of life until he meets Sandro. Sandro Maselli is too nice for his own good. The middle child in an always growing, always screaming Italian family, Sandro walks around on a broken foot to not bother his busy parents. All he wants is to get out and never look back. When fate, in the form of a party that gets busted, brings these two very different boys together, neither of them could have predicted finding a love that they'd risk everything for. James Acker grew up in New Jersey, and he's based his entire personality off that fact. He received his bachelor's in screenwriting and playwriting from Drexel University and won the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Nicole Fellowship for his screenplay Sad Boy. When he's not writing, James lives in Los Angeles with his wonderfully supportive partner and his two recurring stress dreams. This is his debut novel. This Time It's Real by Liang is pitched as a young adult fiction contemporary romance and comes in at 352 pages. Get ready to fall in love in this hilarious rom-com about a girl who begins a fake relationship with a famous actor in her class, perfect for fans of Meg Cabot and Jenny Han. When 17-year-old Eliza Lynn's essay about meeting the love of her life unexpectedly goes viral, her entire life changes overnight. Now she has the approval of her classmates at her new international school in Beijing, a career-launching internship opportunity at her favorite magazine, and a massive secret to keep. Eliza made her essay up. She's never been in a relationship before, let alone in love. All good writing is lying, right? Desperate to hide the truth, Eliza strikes a deal with the famous actor in her class, the charming but aloof Cass Song. She'll help him write his college applications if he poses as her boyfriend. Cass is a dream boyfriend. He passes handwritten notes to her in class, makes her little sister laugh, and takes her out on motorcycle rides to the best snack stalls around the city. But when her relationship with Cass starts feeling a little too convincing, all of Eliza's carefully laid plans are threatened. Can she still follow her dreams if it means breaking her own heart? Anne Liang is a graduate of the University of Melbourne. Born in Beijing, she grew up traveling back and forth between China and Australia, but somehow ended up with an American accent. When she isn't writing, she can be found making overambitious to-do lists, binge-watching dramas, and having profound conversations with her pet labradoodle about who's a good dog. You can find her online at annling.com. The Spite House. I've actually heard about this one quite a few times. I had thought that it was already out, but it wasn't. It goes out to February the 7th. This is by Johnny Compton. It's pitched as horror fiction and is 272 pages. The Babadook meets a head full of ghosts in Texas Hill Country. Eric Ross is on the run from a mysterious past with his two daughters in tow. Having left his wife, his house, his whole life behind in Maryland, he's desperate for money. It's not easy to find steady, safe work when you can't provide references. You can't stay in one place for long, and you're paranoid that your past is creeping back up on you. When he comes across this strange ad for the Masson House in Degner, Texas, Eric thinks they may have finally caught a lucky break. The Masson property, notorious for being one of the most haunted places in Texas, needs a caretaker of sorts. The owner is looking for proof of paranormal activity. All they need to do is stay in the house and keep a detailed record of everything that happens there, provided the house horrors don't drive them all mad like the caretaker before them. The job calls to Eric, not just because there's a huge payout if they can make it through, but because he wants to explore the secrets of the Spite House. If it is indeed haunted, maybe it'll help him understand the uncanny power that clings to his family, driving them from town to town, making them afraid to stop running. A terrifying gothic thriller about grief and death and the depths of a father's love. Johnny Compton's The Spite House is a stunning debut by a horror master in the making. Johnny Compton, him. Short stories have appeared in Pseudopod, Strange Horizons, the No Sleep podcast, and many other markets. He is a HWA member and creator and host of the podcast Healthy Fears. Wildblood by Lauren Blackwood is pitched as young adult fiction, fantasy, dark fantasy, and it comes in at 336 pages. A thrilling new fantasy from New York Times bestselling author Lauren Blackwood. 18-year-old Victoria is a wildblood, kidnapped at the age of 6 and manipulated by the Exotic Lands Touring Company. She worked as a tour guide ever since with a team of fellow wildbloods who take turns using their magic to protect travelers in a Jamaican jungle teeming with ghostly monsters. When the boss denies Victoria an earned promotion to team leader in favor of Dean, her backstabbing ex, she's determined to prove herself. Her magic may be the most powerful on the team, but she's not the image the boss wants to send their new client, Thorn. A renowned gold miner determined to reach an untouched gold supply deep in the jungle. Thorn is everything Victoria isn't, confident and possibly kind, and so handsome he leaves her speechless. And when he entrusts the mission to her, kindness turns to mutual respect, turns to affection, turns to love. But the jungle is treacherous, and between hypnotic river spirits, soul-devouring women that shed their skin like snakes, and her ex out for revenge, Victoria has to decide, is promotion at a corrupt company really what she wants? A fierce, lush fantasy by New York Times bestselling author Lauren Blackwood, Wildblood tells the story of a girl who must find the strength to defeat the demons of the jungle, as well as her own, to find where she truly belongs. Lauren Blackwood is a Jamaican American living in Virginia who writes romance-heavy fantasy for most ages. When not writing, she's a musician and a tiramisu connoisseur. She's the New York Times bestselling author of Within These Wicked Walls and Wildblood. These Infinite Threads by Tahara Mafi is pitched as a young adult fiction fantasy epic, and it is 416 pages. The second book in an epic romantic fantasy trilogy based on Parisian folklore, which #1 New York Times bestselling author Cassandra Clare called exquisitely crafted, by bestselling and National Book Award nominated author Tahara Mafi. Alize is the heir to the Jinn throne and fulfills a long foretold prophecy of a Jinn sovereign destined to free her people from the half-lives they've been forced to live under the rule of humans. Cameron is the heir to the human throne, and he's been pressured to marry before he becomes king. When he falls in love with Alize and subsequently learns her true identity, he must question everything he's been taught about Jinn and their future in his kingdom. These Infinite Threads picks up at the explosive cliffhanger ending of the New York Times bestselling novel This Woven Kingdom, and is perfect for fans of Lee Bardugo, Tomi Adeyemi, and Saba Tahir. Tahara Mafi is a National Book Award nominated and New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of This Woven Kingdom trilogy, the Shatter Me series, A Very Large Expanse of Sea, an emotion of great delight, Witchwood, and furthermore. Find her on Instagram at Tahara, or online at taharamafi.com. The Winter Soldier Cold Front by Mackenzie Lee is pitched as young adult fiction superheroes and comes in at 416 pages. This is part of the Marvel Rebels and Renegades series. The Winter Soldier is the Soviet Union's greatest weapon, assigned the most dangerous covert missions from the USSR's secret military branch, and guided by a handler who knows him better than he knows himself. He has only one purpose: to obey orders. But he wasn't always the Winter Soldier. In 1941, as World War II begins, 16-year-old Bucky Barnes is determined to enlist in the U.S. Army, if only the local commander will stop getting in his way. When Bucky is offered enrollment in a training program with the British Special Operations Executive, the UK's Secret Service, he leaps at the chance to become a hero. But Bucky has hardly touched down in London when he finds himself running from a mysterious assassin and accompanied by an English chess champion, fond of red lipstick and double crosses. She is in possession of a secret every side is desperate to get their hands on, if only they knew what it was. Decades later, the Winter Soldier struggles to solve the same mystery Bucky is just beginning to uncover. As their missions intersect across time, their lives collide too, in a way that neither of them would have expected, and that will change the course of their respective wars. In The Winter Soldier Cold Front, New York Times bestselling author Mackenzie Lee explores the youth of one of Marvel's most compelling characters, James Buchanan Bucky Barnes, and the enemy soldier he is forced to become. Mackenzie Lee holds a BA in history and an MFA in writing for children and young adults from Simmons College. She is the New York Times bestselling author of the historical fantasy novels Loki, Where Mischief Lies, The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which won a 2018 Stonewall Honor Award and the New England Book Award, and its sequel, The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. She is also the author of the nonfiction book Bygones, and then a cuss word, Bruce, a collection of short biographies of forgotten women from history. In 2020, she was named one of Forbes 30 Under 30 for her work in bringing minority narratives to historical fiction. When not writing, she works as an independent bookseller, drinks too much Diet Coke, and naps with her St. Bernard Queenie. This One's for You by Kate Sweeney is pitched as young adults contemporary romance. It comes in at 288 pages. A gorgeous contemporary romance about two ex-best friends, Cass and Sid, on a life-altering trip following the reunion tour of the Darlas, the band Cass's mom was in when she died. Perfect for fans of Nina LaCour, Mary H.K. Choi, and Jandy Nelson. After their high school graduation, former best friends Cass and Sid are gearing up for their futures. Cass has planned to go to college to become an engineer, while Sid, despite the fact that her family thinks she's messed up her whole life, has lined up a sound internship at a historical music venue. But Cass is keeping secrets, though his dad has forbidden it. Cass has been playing music, taking trips to San Francisco, BART station, and to play and make money. Somehow, it becomes a way for Cass to connect with his mother, who was also a musician, who died in a drunk driving accident on the way back from a gig when he was 1. But after Sid catches Cass playing at the BART station, and Cass finds out his mother's old band, the Darlas, is going on a reunion tour, everything changes. On impulse, Cass invites Sid to the first Darla's show, and without telling anyone, they make a break for it, turning one show into a cross-country journey. The two former friends throw away all their plans for the future and embark on a life-altering road trip following the tour, keeping it a secret from their friends and family. Along the way, they'll untangle the messy threads of how they became ex-best friends, experience the power of nature and music, and decide what they really want their lives to be. Maybe through it all, Cass and Sid can find a way back to each other too. Kate Sweeney was born in Athens, Georgia, and has since lived many places including Los Angeles, New York, and Salt Lake City. She began writing when she was 16. Her father, a novelist and screenwriter, had died 5 years prior, and in writing she found a way of bringing his voice back to her ears. For the past 10 years, she has resided in the Bay Area, where she spends her time making music with her band, Magic Magic Roses, teaching literacy, and working with her husband at the family art framing business. She can be found online at Kate Sweeney Writes on Twitter and Instagram, and at her website, katiesweeneywrites.com. That's all I've got for this one. Make sure if you want to be featured that you go ahead and fill out the form down below. It's just going to put your book in front of my eyes to consider it as a featured book. And that's all I've got for you today. I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!